This is going to be kind of a sad one, but stick with me. There'll be a positive message in the end. Kind of. I often wonder about the value of motivational phrases, speeches, videos, posts. Stuff like, anything you don't like, you can change. You're in control of your own life. No one can hurt you unless you let them, and so on. And I get their motivational value, I really do. They're meant to make people believe in themselves and their dreams, their own abilities, and I guess to a lot of people they do that, but I think that a lot of these motivational phrases are complete and utter bullshit. Most of them operate under the assumption that you can achieve anything in life so long as you try hard enough, and all you really need to do is work for it. But that's an incredibly limited and privileged way to look at the world. We are not in complete control of our lives. I don't think anyone is. But certainly for some people this is more relevant than for others, depending on what kind of privileges you were born into and how your life has developed up to this point. The level of control that you have over your own life is going to vary. Someone in a decent living situation can work very hard to make their dreams come true, and when they succeed, they will believe that they reached their goals entirely through their hard work. But they were jumping off the springboard of their various privileges, and while yes, of course, they worked hard to get where they are, they wouldn't have the same results if it wasn't for their fortunate circumstances. Yet their success will be used as an example of how hard work and dedication can get you anywhere in life without acknowledging that you had to have a number of privileges first. Obviously, a cishet white guy with a rich supportive family living in the G10 is not going to have quite the same hurdles in life as, say, a child soldier in Sudan. And even that cishet white guy could have a genetic condition that will prevent him from achieving his goals in life, while the one child soldier that survives, escapes, writes a book, and becomes famous will forever be used as an example of how it can be done if you just try hard enough. So obviously anyone who didn't do the same just didn't put the work in. The issue with these motivational phrases is that they're incredibly victim-shaming. Because when you tell someone something like, no one can hurt you without your consent, you're not just motivating people to defend themselves better, you are also essentially telling everyone who's ever been hurt that it's their own fault, that they didn't defend themselves well enough, that they didn't do enough to fight off their attackers or defend themselves verbally or subvert their emotions in a way that would make it impossible for anyone to hurt them. Even though there are millions of people in the world in terrible places and situations who will never fulfill their dreams or reach their goals or live their truths or even just be mostly comfortable in their existence, who will forever work harder and try harder than the people who did get their happy endings, largely thanks to their better default settings and circumstances in life, they will still always be told that the reason that they didn't succeed is just because they didn't try hard enough. And you might tell me, hey, those phrases aren't meant for people in shitty living situations and with bad default settings. They're meant for people who have the privileges and opportunities and simply aren't exploiting them. They need the push, and those motivational phrases are meant to give them that push. And hey, if it works for you, great. More power to you. However, the problem is that people who don't have the opportunities or who are in situations that severely limit the amount of control that they have over their own lives do also see those messages. And more often than not, they just hurt because you might have been trying and trying and trying, but you're fighting against insurmountable obstacles. And yet here's some privileged little shit who tells you that you can change anything and you're completely in control of your own life. It feels like a spit in the face, like someone is disregarding all of the struggles that you've been dealing with for years, all of the things that you simply cannot change, and they're telling you that no such things exist if you try hard enough. So clearly, if you've met a mountain that you can't move on your way to your goals, the mountain isn't the problem, you are. But it doesn't stop there. There are supplementary motivational phrases that are meant to wave away everything that I just said, such as, for instance, if you can't change the situation, change your perspective. Those kinds of phrases essentially take into consideration the fact that actually we are not always in control of our own lives, but they still make you feel like your shitty life is entirely your own fault. Because if you can't change the situation, then you should just change everything about yourself in order for the situation to suddenly become good. You're miserable? Just stop being miserable. It's that easy. If, for instance, you're unhappy about being poor, disabled, and entirely dependent upon your abusive relatives, just change your perspective. Become happy about being poor, abused, and disabled. Make that your dream. Look at it this way. You don't have to work. Someone else pays your bills, and you never have to worry about moving because you'll never be able to afford it. Aren't you happy now? See how easily all your problems have been solved. If you can't make your dreams come true, just get different dreams. If you can't change the situation, just change everything about yourself. Become a completely different person, and then everything will be okay. And sure, 99.9% of the time, that doesn't actually work. And an attempt to change everything about yourself in order to fit into a situation that you can't change will eventually start to burn you from the inside out to the point where you will hate yourself and become even more miserable than you'd originally been. But hey, at least you're following a nice motivational phrase. And then there are phrases like, every cloud has a silver lining, look for something good in a bad situation. If your life is bad overall, just enjoy the little things, and it might take 5 years or 15 years or 50, you can still do it. And I guess there's value to that. If your life is bad, but you're still trying to get by and maybe hoping for some kind of change in the future, then enjoying the little things can be good. If that works for you, that's wonderful and perfectly valid, but it doesn't work for everyone. Because a lot of the times when the big things are bad, trying to enjoy the little things just feels like a plaster, like you're trying to distract yourself from the horrors that are the big things in your life with the little bits of enjoyment. For me personally, that has never worked because when the things that matter are bad, trying to enjoy the little things just makes me feel like I'm wasting my life on irrelevances instead of doing something that matters. And sooner or later, the big things are going to roll back in and remind you that your life is still full of shit, and a few cute dog pictures aren't going to fix that. And then there's also the fact that a lot of the times when your life is bad overall, the little things that you might have enjoyed are simply not available to you for financial or logistical reasons. So when someone encourages you to enjoy the little things, it essentially just reminds you of everything that you're missing out on because your life is crap. And is there even a point anymore if it takes you 50 years to reach your goals? I mean, will I even be able to enjoy the success when I'm 80? And let's not forget that some dreams you really can't pursue after a certain age. And let's hope I don't have some hereditary condition that's going to start destroying me by 35. Besides, if you have some crappy situation that you need to fix or get out of before you can even start to pursue your dreams, if that takes you 50 years, you're just not going to have much time left. I mean, we like to talk about how you can pursue your dreams at any age, but that too is a bit overly romanticized and removed from reality. Because even if you do actually achieve your goals at 80 and you're lucky enough to still be healthy to be able to do that, and maybe you will enjoy it for a few years, that still doesn't cancel the fact that you've been miserable for 80 years before that. Sure, you might be able to still reach your goals 50 years from now, but let's not pretend like it doesn't matter how long it takes you. It matters. It matters a whole fucking lot. As for trying to find something good in a bad situation, the truth is, not every bad situation has something good in it. Sometimes the good is only good for other people, not for you. Or it's so small that trying to make it seem like it somehow makes up for the bad will just make you feel even worse. And then there are situations where there genuinely is nothing good, and trying to find it will only make you more miserable, because not only are you miserable about the situation itself, but you will feel like a failure as you desperately try to find something good in a situation where it simply doesn't exist. I know this all sounds quite gloomy and probably sounds like I'm trying to make it seem like everything in the world is terrible and just dismissing all the good things in life, but that's not really the point. Of course, there are situations that can be changed by trying a little harder. There are clouds that have a silver lining. I'm not saying that we should completely eliminate motivational phrases and one-liners. Well, actually, I think some of them really need to go. But my point is that we need to acknowledge that they don't apply to everyone, that they don't always work, and that they don't always help. Because the issue isn't just with hurting individual people who aren't in full control of their lives or can't change their situations, it's with the overall beliefs that these messages create. Because if you throw motivational phrases around enough with no regard for privilege or nuance, it creates a mindset that makes people believe that anyone who hasn't succeeded in life has failed solely because of their own lack of hard work and dedication. And then, a lot of the times, when people fail because they have very few privileges or have had bad things happen to them along the way, instead of acknowledging that they have failed because of bad circumstances or bad default settings, instead of acknowledging that it was very difficult, if not impossible, for them to reach the same results as someone with better default settings or better circumstances along the way, they just blame themselves. Because of course they do. Everything around them has told them their whole lives that they can change anything, and you're in control of your life, and no one can hurt you without your consent. I know it's not cool or fun or motivational to acknowledge that there are things beyond our control. There are situations that can't be fixed. There are lives that will never be improved, and that there are people who will never be able to reach their goals or fulfill their dreams. But I think we need that acknowledgement, because those lives and those people do exist, and pretending like they don't isn't going to make those lives better. It's just going to make those people feel even worse. Besides, these motivational phrases often turn into weapons used by privileged people to disregard the hardships of those less fortunate. Instead of acknowledging that someone wasn't able to reach their full potential because of their bad default settings or the circumstances that they'd had to deal with, someone with considerably more privileges can just say, "We're in control of our own lives. Anything is possible if you just try hard enough, so clearly you just didn't try hard enough." Most people in really bad situations are trying and are working very hard. And I think a lot of them would much rather hear more realistic motivational phrases like, "Whether or not you make your dreams come true, you've survived this long, and that's pretty damn admirable." Or, "Maybe you won't be able to change your life for the better because you have very little control and next to no resources, but at least you're doing your best," which is more than can be said for most people. Sure, it's not as catchy as "you can be anything," but it's a lot more true in the end. I understand the value of motivational messages for people for whom they work. Even for some of the people who are in genuinely bad situations and might never be able to fulfill their dreams, some of these messages can give hope that maybe someday they'll be able to change their life for the better. But I think accepting and acknowledging the worst case scenarios can also be a positive thing, because whether or not we acknowledge them, they will still happen. So acknowledging that some people are just given shit to work with and not making them feel like failures for not being able to turn that shit into gold might actually be kind of inspirational.